Hey everybody, Darren Starr here, coming at you from the new studio. I had an idea. So, as a full-time online bodybuilding coach, one of the things that I'm constantly harping on my clients about is, hey, send me some video from the gym so I can take a look at what you're doing and provide you feedback. And so I thought, hey, I've got this giant repository of client videos. Why don't we break some of them down together here so you can see how I do this stuff? So with their permission, everything that you will see here today has been used with the permission of the person in the video. I'm going to show you some actual client videos and offer you some feedback. I've already provided feedback to the specific client on all of these, but I wanted to go through and just kind of talk you through some of the things that I see when I watch these, the things that I look for, the things that I think are good, the things that I think need improving upon. So I've got a handful picked out today, and we're going to break them down, and this hopefully will be the first of a long-running series. So we'll see how this goes. So let's take a look at this. We got a handful of these. We're going to, see what happens here as I go through these, and hopefully nothing bad is going to happen. Let's start with some good stuff, shall we? So here we have my client Grace, who will be executing a spider curl. Also, all of these videos, I have my clients send me all their videos through WhatsApp, just for convenience. It's easy. It does compress the videos a little bit. So if you see that things are a little lo-fi here, that's why. These are fairly small files that have been compressed in transit. So doing the best we can with what we got here. So watching Grace do this spider curl, there's a lot that I like about this. There isn't much that I don't like. So what she's doing here is doing a really good job of getting full extension on the elbow right here, and then initiating all the reps kind of in slow motion. So you can see like her humerus here, if you watch that, like this humerus bone isn't really moving a whole lot. Her shoulder is at a pretty fixed angle right here. So she's getting a good degree of flexion up at the top with a good squeeze. You can see the shake there, and full extension down at the top. All the reps initiate nice and slow, so there's a lot of mechanical tension on the muscle throughout. This is excellent, frankly. I love everything about this. There's nothing, I think the feedback that I had for her was no notes. Keep doing what you're doing here. I like the way she's positioned on the bench as well, rather than both feet on the ground, because sometimes, depending on the kind of materials that you're working with, the kind of bench that you have, the kind of floor that you have, the bench can kind of scoot around a little bit. So you anchor one of your legs on the bench. It also lets you scoot up a little bit and feel a little bit more supported. This is great. One thing that I would often see people do here is when you initiate the rep, like your elbow kind of tucks back a little bit. You want to avoid that. You want to keep the elbow in a more forward position all throughout. Let the weight come out in front of your center of mass. In this case, we're going to treat that as though it's the shoulder. Let the dumbbell come out in front of the shoulder. That's the way to do it. That's how you get the best amount of tension on the bicep here. So this is great. This is really good. Another thing that you could do here, if you wanted to really like add a nice little kicker to it, any bilateral exercise like this, where you're working both sides of the body together, is harder than an isolateral exercise. Think about it. You're taking all of your brain's potential, all of the neurons and neural activity that you can get going for an exercise, and you're splitting it amongst your left and right. Now, if towards the end of this set, when things are starting to fatigue a little bit, what I might do if we're looking to really like add a little bit of an intensifier at the end here is do a few alternating reps, just because when you start to fail at bilateral reps, you can probably still squeeze out a couple of isolateral reps, left side, right side, left side, right side. So that could be a nice little way to add a nice finishing touch onto this. So good job, Grace. I like that. So now let's take a look at, this is my client Michelle doing a face pull here. So also, videos are recorded how they were recorded. So some are landscape, some are portrait. So you're going to see a wide range of formats here. So doing a face pull here, the first thing I told Michelle is wrong attachment. Don't do it with a straight bar. The reason for this is on a face pull, you want to get the most amount of retraction in this move that you can. And so you can already see like what my hands are doing here. Like, I'm basically simulating holding a rope attachment, which is what you want to use here. So with that rope, you can come back and you can really like, get your hands outside of your peripheral vision here. If I was doing this with a straight bar, I would have smacked myself in the bridge of the nose with that bar. So we want to avoid that. So just a different attachment. It's going to change your grip in a way that really hits the rear delt the most. So the rear delt is a small little thing. It's just this little guy right here. That's it. So you're not going to be moving a ton of weight on this exercise. If you are, it's because you're using a lot of other stuff. You're using a lot of mid-trap, potentially a little bit of lat. You could be working in some tricep, you could be working in some of the neck musculature, or what I often see happening here is you're working a lot of hips, knees, and ankles. Like you're throwing your whole body into it. This is a terrible total body exercise. There are some exercises that are okay as total body exercises. The face pull is not one of them. So don't make it a total body exercise. Now, Michelle is not doing that. Like, this is really controlled. It's really good. She's getting that full extension here as well. It's just, we're not getting the degree of retraction that we want, that scapular retraction that we want here. I would also say, think about where you target yourself on this exercise. Like, what are you really aiming for? So you can see, just because that bar is coming right up on her, like you can see she's kind of aiming right for the mouth level. If you change that and you aim a little higher, so you're bringing this right around ear level, right around eye level, that's going to get the rear delts going even more effectively. And so now we're supersetting this with a plate raise, which is good. So this I like, and Michelle has the obvious solution here that a lot of people really, really struggle with, which is a 10-pound plate's too easy, a 25-pound plate's too much. Grab more than one plate. Sandwich them. Grab a 10, a 5, and a 2.5 if you need to. Like, you can grab more than one plate. So she's got the obvious solution here. You would be shocked, or maybe you wouldn't be shocked at how that obvious solution eludes a lot of people. So this is good. Is it getting a little swingy here towards the end? A little bit, but also like what I would tell Michelle or anybody else is, especially if you're doing a superset, the second exercise of a superset, if your form still looks robotic and mechanical at the end of that, you probably aren't pushing very hard. Like you expect to see a little bit of form breakdown here, and I want to see that. And so that's good, but it is like, let's go back and take a look at that here. So let's see, like when the set first starts, it's good. You can see her body swaying just a little bit, but it's pretty minimal. Like, these are pretty clean reps. You can tell she's in the zone. She's feeling it. I like that. Towards the end of the set, I mean, she's using a little bit of that spinal flexion there, just a little bit. It's still not bad. Like, it's very much one of those, like, I'll know it when I see it kind of situations. If the form is like, ooh, like if your form kind of sucks on rep 1, it's probably going to look like dog shit by the time you get to rep 15 or whatever. So you want your early reps to look good and allow that form to deteriorate and break down a little bit. If those last reps still look textbook perfect, it's probably an indicator that you can find like another level to kick it into there. Okay, next up, what do we have here? Let's check out what Cody's doing here. So Cody is going to do one of my favorite, hold on. Yep. So first of all, we just have to throw the mad respect for the Ace Ventura Pet Detective top with the Michael Jordan shorts. This is a bold fashion statement right here. I appreciate this, man. This is good. So one of my favorite activation movements for pecs, which is a Ven Press. It has other names as well. You can call it whatever you want, but Ven Press is what I call it. And basically, like, the weight on this movement doesn't matter. I've seen plenty of people try to beast this out with, like, a 45-pound plate or like a 50-pound dumbbell. Like, you're turning this into an anterior delt exercise at that point, and probably a trap exercise as well. It is not that. What is it? It is this horizontal adduction. That's it. So basically, he's got that 5-pound dumbbell. It's this far apart, and by the end of the set, I want it to look like it's this far apart. Like, he's just squeezing in on that thing as hard as you possibly can as you go from a retracted position to a much more forward and exposed position here. So you're asking, the pec primarily works in that horizontal adduction movement. That's what, that's primarily what it does. Whether it's a press or a fly, your humerus is always adducting towards the midline of your body. It's just the loading changes a little bit. But that's what we're looking for with that. So it's all about just squeezing in as hard as you can, control it. And so it's not about moving the weight in and out. It's about squeezing in on the sides of that weight as hard as you can while you move in and out. So like squeeze here, squeeze as you're moving, squeeze when you're fully extended, and squeeze all the way back in. So it's really like it's an isometric exercise that happens to move, which is kind of a contradiction, but that's what we're looking at here. So this is great. And notice also, like, he's not holding on to the dumbbell here. Like, his fingers aren't wrapped around the sides. That's a big thing. I don't want you to have a good grip on this. I want it to be sandwiched in between your hands, and that's it. So it's the only thing holding it in place is the pressure on your hands from the outside. The other thing that I will often do on this is use multiple plates. So I might do this with a couple of 5-pound plates for a total of 10 pounds. Or if I'm feeling really saucy, I might use 3 5-pound plates. So I've got one plate in the middle that I don't touch. And so if I'm not squeezing hard enough on that thing, that middle plate might fall out. So that really kind of drives the point home of like really keeping that squeeze in on the outer plates. So this looks great. Let's take a look at Angel here doing a Romanian deadlift. So this is on the free motion lift machine, which it can be an okay choice for this. I'm not super thrilled with this, and I gave him some feedback on this and some things to try. So the thing about this with an RDL, it's a difficult exercise to pull off and really feel effectively. So what I will often tell people to do is say, like, we're gonna break this down and I want you to start from the basics, because I can't tell you how many times I've worked with somebody who will perform this exercise and do it and go through the motions, but never really feel it working the way that we want it to. Like hamstring activation, glutes, I don't know. It's hard because I'm holding the heavy weight, like my grip's wearing out, but everything else is like, whatever. Like there's a high degree for a low level of proprioception or mind muscle connection with this exercise. So it's worth drilling it in some ways until you get really cued in on it. So the first thing we want to make sure that we're doing is we're making this movement about anterior pelvic tilt. So envision your pelvis as a bucket of water. You're gonna pour water out the front of the bucket. Let's take a look at what Angel is doing here. So he's doing, he's using a very slow negative here. I think it's about a 4-second negative, something like that. The concentric is then a little bit more explosive there. But up until, let's check this next rep here. Good, so from right here, oops, I meant to pause it. Let's go back, right there-ish. Like up until that point, it looks like hip flexion to me. It looks like anterior pelvic tilt. From this point on, I think it's mostly spinal flexion. Now he's got some layers on, clothes are a little loose, so it's hard to tell for sure, but been doing this long enough, like I can tell the difference. Like, right, yeah, you can tell like that rep was a little bit better. There was more pelvic tilt. It's not super consistent, right? And so we want that consistent degree of pelvic tilt. A lot of things that people do on this is they chase range of motion on this exercise as well, where they think like, okay, I need to continue doing this all the way until I get down to the ground, or I lower the weight to the ground, or in this case, until the top of the weight stack makes contact with the bottom. Honestly, the range of motion that is ideal for this exercise is determined by the flexibility of your hamstrings. So for a lot of guys out there, if you have really tight hammies, your range of motion is probably going to be a little bit more short on this, which is by design. You want to get the hamstring stretched. Once they feel like they've hit that maximum stretch point, that's the bottom of the movement, wherever it is. If you've only gone down 6 inches, work on your hamstring flexibility, but anything beyond that, you're just flexing the spine and it's not hitting the target muscle anymore. So if your range of motion is that limited, we got some work to do. And I've worked with people like that for sure. Some people that are just super tight. I'm not too far out of that category myself. The other thing about this is it gives you the opportunity, doing it in this free motion lift setup here, it does give you the opportunity to play around with some angles and some vectors on how you load or how you position yourself relative to the load. So he's out in front of the weight a little bit here. So you can see as he goes through the reps, the weight's kind of pulling him back a little bit. Also, I would say I'd like to see his knees a little bit softer here as well. You don't want it, this isn't about knee flexion. It's different from a regular deadlift in that way, but I like to see the knees just a little bit softer. I find that if I soften the knees just a little bit more, it makes it easier for me to, first of all, the pelvis will move a little bit more freely. It also makes it easier for me to feel the hamstrings. This is one of those where you just have to keep experimenting with it. You have to know what you're targeting, but don't be afraid to try some different things. Like do it without any weight at all. Just put your hand on your hips and like manually turn your pelvis forward with your hands to really kind of cue that as you start to go through the movement in pantomime. That works great. This is more of an advanced loading technique. You can do something kind of like this in the Smith machine where you really like get your shoulders way out in front of the bar as you're doing it. I wouldn't try anything too fancy. Like the first thing you want to do is get the basics of this movement down and get that proprioception nailed with just body weight. Think about like, driving your right here at this point right there. Like drive the weight through your heels right there. Like really dig your heels into the ground. Think about some rubber bands that are running up the back of your legs and around your shoulders, and you're pulling on those rubber bands to help bring the torso back upright. A lot of it is just visualizing certain things like that. All right, and then the last one I have for today, let's check out Chelsea here doing a rack deadlift. So I know a lot of people like to shit on rack deadlifts as not being a great exercise. I think any exercise has its utility. Is it the most optimal exercise for back development? No, but it's a good one, and it does things that other back exercises don't do. This is largely, if you do it the way that I think you should, largely an isometric exercise for the lats specifically. So let's take a look at what Chelsea's doing here. First thing she's doing is strapping up. You can see she's got a bumper plate in the rack that she's standing on because the bailout bars on this hammer strength rack, they don't go very low. And you really want, for a good rack deadlift, you want your starting position to be with the bar just below knee level. So I would argue here that she needs to get a little bit higher. And I wouldn't start stacking bumper plates necessarily, maybe bringing in an aerobic step. Like she probably needs another just 1.5 inches, 2 inches, something. She's very close. The main thing that I told Chelsea on this is get your knees right up on that bar when you pull. So the range of motion doesn't look bad here at all. I wouldn't mind if she got just a little bit more depth, just, was standing a little bit taller since the bar won't go down any lower. It's not bad, but get right up on it. Like, don't have that bar out in front of you at all. You want to basically be right over top of it the whole time. The other way that I think you should really do a rack deadlift if you want to do it proper and not just like as an ego lift, like let me put 400 or 500 pounds on the bar and just and make a lot of noise in the gym. Fuck that shit. What I want you to do instead is hit a pose, like you're going to hit your front relax pose, get your lats flared out, and from that position, bend down, grab the bar, lats are still flared the whole time, grab the bar, stand up, keep your lats flared. So your lats are being flared and holding that flare against resistance, and the angle of that resistance changes as you go from being bent over to being more upright. So it's really an exercise that hits the entirety of the lat if you do it that way. But also, and you might benefit from a little bit of a wider grip in doing that as well. Not quite a snatch grip, but maybe just a little outside the legs. Think about where your hands would normally fall if you're just doing a front relaxed pose, and then put them there on the bar as you go down. But it's maintaining that isometric flex in the lats all the way through, which also means if you can't do that, then it's difficult to pull off a rack deadlift in the way that I want you to. And some people, they just really struggle with getting that lat flare nailed and engaged. So, but that's what I told Chelsea to do here. Like, get the lats flared, but really get right up on that bar. So it's all up in your business. It's not out in front of you at all. Think about where your center of gravity is, where the bar is in relation to that, and just try and get those 2 points as close to each other as possible. So, yeah. Not bad, not bad. So that's what I've got for today. That's it. So if you have specific requests for any moves that you'd like to see me break down, let me know. And I'd be happy to, go mining for some videos in the archives, see what new, because I get new stuff that shows up to me every day. And certainly also, if you got some value out of this, like the video, you can subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, share with your friends, etc. You can tag me on social media. Best place for that is Instagram at Darren_star. Ideas for future videos, let me know. We're going to be doing more podcast episodes as well. I've got a lot of stuff planned. It's just about finding the hours in the day to be able to do it. So, but these videos are good. They're just really easy for me to knock out. It's stuff that I already have. And I think, I think a lot of people could benefit from this stuff because I want to get you and everybody in the bodybuilding community thinking more deeply about exercise mechanics. It's not just about doing the stuff, but it's about doing the stuff as efficiently as you can and realizing like, hey, let's back off on the weight a little bit. Let's really feel the muscle working throughout the full range of motion. Try to get the most out of it because we're all working hard. We're all busting our asses. Let's try and be a little bit more efficient about it so we can bust our asses still a lot and get a little bit more out of it at the same time.